I
with
can't.
the electronic line calling system.
How it looks there and how it is usually looks different. I cannot go down, Elena. Pardon?
I'll tell you what.
It does look,
That is
yeah,
you're
out
pointing at
in the
correct
mark that she's showing.
That is the mark, but I cannot go down.
So you
Yeah,
see that
it's-
floor is out, but you still say that.
What I see from here is that it's very close. What I see up there, that is just touching.
Are you kidding? It's like that. This is not a joke. The system is wrong. This is not a joke. There is no such mark which is showed on the.
Imagine you're watching a tennis match on clay. The ball lands. You can see the mark with your own eyes. The commentators see it. The cameras see it. Millions of people watching at home see it. But the one system with actual authority over the call, it sees nothing. Or worse, it sees something completely different. That is exactly what happened in Madrid last weekend, and it has reignited one of the most uncomfortable conversations in professional tennis. We need to talk about it. April 26th, 2026. The Mutua Madrid Open, third round. Elena Rybakina, world number 2, two-time Wimbledon finalist, one of the most ice-cold competitors on the entire WTA Tour, is locked in a match against Qinwen Zheng. Now, Rybakina came in as the clear favorite. She had beaten Zheng 4 times out of 5 in their previous meetings, and even though she'd admitted before the tournament that her form wasn't quite where she wanted it, she was expected to handle this. But Zheng had other plans. She came out firing on all cylinders, first serves landing with precision, baseline rallies controlled, movement sharp. Before Rybakina could find her footing, the first set was gone. 6-4. Not a disaster, but a warning. Going into the second set, Rybakina flipped something internally. You could see it in her movement, her footwork, her decision-making. She started dictating. She got herself to 4-1, and the match was turning. And then came the moment that changed everything. Zheng stepped up to serve. The ball came down. The electronic line calling system, the machine that has replaced human line judges at this tournament, ruled it in. But Rybakina stopped dead. Not in frustration, not in desperation.
She stopped because she had seen something.
Right there on the clay, exactly where that serve had landed, was a mark. A physical imprint left behind by the ball on the court surface. And that mark was outside the line. Not close to the line. Not on the line. Outside it. She walked straight to the chair umpire, Julie Chenley, and pointed directly at the court. The cameras followed her gaze. There it was. Crystal clear. The ball mark sitting visibly beyond the baseline, plain enough that the broadcast commentators immediately called it out from their booth. Rybakina looked up at the umpire and said it plainly, "The system is wrong. It is not touching, it is absolutely wrong." She asked Chenley to come down from the chair and inspect the mark herself, which, on clay courts historically, has always been within the rules. The clay leaves behind evidence. Physical, undeniable evidence. That evidence was sitting right there on the court. But Chenley couldn't come down. The Madrid Open runs on a fully automated electronic line calling system. No line judges. No human review. The machine decides, and that decision is final. The umpire's hands were tied. She wasn't being dismissive. She wasn't being incompetent. She was just trapped inside a structure that had no mechanism for what was unfolding right in front of her eyes. Rybakina turned back one final time. She said, "With this thing, I won't trust it at all." Because the mark told a completely different story from the call. The point went to Zheng. Stolen. In broad daylight. With the evidence right there on the court. Now here is where it gets remarkable. Because most players in that moment would have unraveled. A critical juncture in a tight match, a point taken from you that you were clearly owed, and no one in authority able to do a single thing about it. That would break concentration. It would plant a seed of doubt. It would linger. But this is Elena Rybakina. She voiced her frustration, made absolutely sure everyone understood she was right, and then she turned around and went back to work. She closed out the second set 6-4. Then she came out in the third and was ruthless, 6-3. Final score, 4-6, 6-4, 6-3. A comeback win, forged in the middle of one of the most infuriating officiating failures in recent memory. After the match, she was still frustrated, and she had every right to be. She brought up Alexander Zverev, who had gone through a remarkably similar experience at the same tournament the year before. She said it was right in front of her nose. You cannot see it. It's kind of a stolen point. And she's absolutely right. It was a stolen point. The fact that she won anyway speaks to her mental toughness in a way that no ranking or title ever quite captures. But here's what should make every tennis fan uncomfortable. The victory doesn't erase the problem. She won despite the failure of the system, not because of it. And that question she was essentially asking in that moment. If clay leaves behind a visible physical mark showing exactly where the ball landed, why is that mark being overruled by an algorithm that is demonstrably, visibly, provably wrong? That question has no clean answer. And it is far from the only question tennis needs to reckon with right now. Because Rybakina's experience in Madrid is not an isolated incident. It is part of a longer, uglier pattern that has been building for years, and the players are the ones paying the price. Go back to the 2023 US Open. Coco Gauff, who would eventually win that title, was in a first-round battle against German veteran Laura Siegemund. Now, Siegemund is known on tour for playing slowly between points. That's not a secret. But what happened in that match went beyond slow play into something more deliberate. Siegemund was repeatedly going over the 25-second shot clock, not once or twice, but consistently across both sets. Gauff stayed composed for as long as she could, but eventually she reached the chair umpire and said it directly. She went over the clock about 4 times. You gave her a time violation once. How is this fair? And she was right. The rules existed. They just weren't being enforced. When Siegemund was finally issued a penalty point late in the 3rd set, she was the one who stormed up to argue, despite the fact that she had been the one breaking the rules all along. It had been allowed to escalate to that point because the umpire had applied the rules inconsistently, let one player take liberties, and then faced the consequences of that negligence when the penalty finally arrived. Gauff won the match and eventually the whole tournament. But you can win a Grand Slam and still carry the weight of moments where you felt the system wasn't protecting you. That feeling doesn't disappear with a trophy. And for Gauff, it wasn't going anywhere. Because less than a year later, on the clay of Roland Garros during the 2024 Paris Olympics, it happened again. This time it was worse. She was in the 3rd round against Croatia's Donna Vekic. Late in the match, a line judge called Vekic's return out. Gauff didn't play on. But then chair umpire James Campbell overruled the call, handed the point to Vekic, and gifted her a break that shifted the entire match. Gauff walked to the chair, visibly upset, and said, "He called it out before I even hit the ball. It's not a perception issue. It's the rules." She was in tears. On Olympic clay, one of the most talented young players the sport has produced, heartbroken by a reversible officiating error in one of the biggest competitions on the sporting calendar. Afterward, she said she had found herself having to advocate for herself on the court multiple times that year. She called for video review to be introduced. One of the biggest names in the game, asking for basic protection that the sport still hadn't figured out how to provide. Now let's talk about someone who shouldn't have to deal with this kind of thing at her stage of the journey. Alex Ila, the young Filipino player who has been turning heads everywhere she competes. Ila is not the type to make noise. She plays her tennis, keeps her composure, earns her respect on the court. But she found herself drawn into exactly the same battle that Gauff had faced, and against the exact same opponent. Laura Siegemund again. Same habits. No change whatsoever. Ila eventually had to say something. She told the umpire, "Can you watch her time? Because many times she is delaying. I was about to serve and she turned around." She shouldn't have had to say that. That was the umpire's job. But here's what makes it even worse. Broadcast data from that match showed that Siegemund was exceeding the shot clock on 85% of her service points. Not occasionally. Not frequently. 85%. That is not slow play. That is systematic, repeated, match-long rule-breaking happening right in front of officials who do nothing. And yet it keeps going. Match after match, year after year. The same player, the same pattern, the same inaction. Ila found the strength to win in 3 sets. But she should never have needed to spend even a fraction of her mental energy managing something that exists entirely because the officials refuse to do their job. That energy belongs to the tennis. It belongs to the competition. It gets stolen, quietly, invisibly, but completely by a system that doesn't protect the players inside it. So look at all of this together. An algorithm overruling visible ball mark evidence on clay. An umpire watching serial shot clock violations and doing nothing. A champion in tears on Olympic courts over a correctable error. A rising star forced to police her opponent's behavior because the referee wouldn't. These are not random, unrelated incidents. They are symptoms of the same underlying disease, a sport whose officiating infrastructure has not kept pace with the expectations of the players competing inside it. Rybakina said it best in Madrid. The system is wrong.
She was talking about that one call.
But she was also talking about all of it. Clay is unique in tennis for one very specific reason. It leaves evidence. The ball touches the surface, and the surface remembers. That has always been one of clay's defining characteristics, the reason Hawkeye was never introduced on clay in the first place, the reason players have historically